Why would anyone want to do a regular podcast and put all that work into the episodes when you don't really know who's watching? Hi, I'm attorney Andrew Myers, and I'm here with the About the Law podcast with what we figure is going to be our introductory episode. Now that we've been doing the podcast for about a year, it dawned on us that we never did an introductory episode like we've seen other people do. And one day we were collaborating with our friend Pete Altieri over at the Murder, Metal, Mayhem channel, and he started asking us questions. Who are you? What are you doing? What's the podcast all about? What's your background? So here it is, our introductory episode telling you 10 things you might want to know about us. Here's a spoiler alert. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing for 30 years. Lainey Law is a tech expert. Here we go.
Thanks for joining us on a special episode of About the Law. I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
So today's episode is a little bit different from what we normally do. We just got finished recording with the YouTube channel Murder, Metal, Mayhem, and you can go check out their channel to see the full video. But Andrew, I wanted to ask you for your thoughts and opinions about that. What was one of your favorite questions that we answered?
I guess I wasn't really totally prepared, but he started asking me personal questions like, how did you get into it? And why did you get into it? And what's the most, and here I was expecting him to ask me questions about cases like Koberger and Delphi. So I started, telling my whole life story. I'd been practicing law for 30 years. And before that, I was a TV reporter. And I felt like I was just babbling away. I don't know.
Well, and I think the people in the comments can let us know what they think. But I think that it was nice coming from like a viewer perspective since he watches our channel. And I think it kind of shows us that, and this is a comment that we've had a million times. We've had comments, is Lainey an attorney? And we answered that there. No, I am not an attorney. And I'll talk a little bit more about myself over on his channel. But it's interesting because I've always kind of felt that our viewers wanted to kind of know more about us. So I think it was kind of nice seeing him like ask about like your history and your involvement. And I think you got to talk about some things that we obviously don't really typically talk about here. So that was fun though.
Yeah, it was good that you actually talked more than you usually do about yourself. He asked you, about the analytics, and we talk about the analytics in kind of a dry form, but you actually had a really good answer that I've never really thought about. Why is it that people, especially women in that demographic age group, why are they so into it? I never really thought about it. I had my own answer, but actually yours was better than mine. And so that was good. That was an opportunity for people to get to know you better.
Well, I think everybody's answers are equally valid, but it's funny because we talk about in general about true crime, but this was kind of like our first experience talking about true crime, because you don't really see like a lot of YouTube channels talking about kind of what goes into podcasting and what results from that and what kind of drives and motivates you. And I thought that was one of the things that was interesting with one of the questions you were answering, is that you were mentioning is just like when we got into podcasting, I kind of joked about this. Andrew didn't even know like you could make money initially.
No, I'm naive. I'm very naive about a lot of things. And that was one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it was nice for people to kind of see things from more of a perspective, because I think a lot of people aren't aware about like your journalism background. Now, he asked us about a couple of different cases, and I'm putting you kind of on the spot to think about one. I know we talk about Koberger, but out of all the cases that we talked about, Murdoch, Delphi, Koberger, even beyond that, what is, if you had to give me a little, and you can think about it a little bit if you want to, but what case kind of has you most interested in it right now?
Well, right now, only because the trial is coming up really soon, is the death of poor little Harmony Montgomery, and her father, Adam Montgomery, is being tried for that, only in part because it's such a horrible, gruesome story. We talked to my old friend Bob Ward, a now 10-time Emmy award-winning newspaper reporter, and he was shaken up by that story. He's a professional. He is a consummate professional. He's been doing it for years. He knows what he's doing. He works at a big Boston TV station. He's won many awards, but that case, as we went through it with him, obviously shook him up for a lot of reasons. And not the least, probably the least of which was many, 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 many years ago, we worked together at a TV station, and one of the houses where they took evidence out of was right around the corner from where we lived many, many, many years ago. So it's a horrible case. We don't know all the facts. It seems pretty clear. We have to say that it's all alleged and allegations, but Bob had some insights. He had actually talked to the little girl's foster parents. So it's just a horrible story. It's a timely story because of the drug addiction aspect of it. But so I guess that would be my answer to your question about the case that intrigues me the most right now.
And you mentioned our last podcast I don't know if it's going to be our last podcast at the time of this is being posted, but you mentioned our podcast with Bob, and I think both of us left feeling, like that was a really insightful, educational podcast, and it gave us a lot of information and details about the case and just a lot of different perspectives. And we kind of talked about it in the Murder Metal Mayhem Pete's podcast, that it's interesting because like right now Kohberger is like the top thing. It's like Kohberger. Isn't it so crazy? Like what do you make of it? How do you feel to see us just like, because I really feel like we did a good production on that, and this is just more of our own opinions and not super true crime fact. But how do you do you feel any type of way to see that everybody cares about Kohberger right now, but you have important current also things going on right now, and it doesn't seem like people are diving into that? What do you make of that?
It's a little bit frustrating. I mean, like everybody else in America, I am intrigued by the Kohberger case, and I would like to see the veil of secrecy lift so that we can find out what really happened. If Brian Kohberger is the person that did what he is alleged to have done, let's hear it. But if, all these crazy theories about the tunnels and the two jacks and the Banfield incident and the car, was it a 2011, 2013 or 2015, all that stuff, I'm intrigued by it all, but yeah, you're right. I would like to move on to other cases. I've been a true crime advocate, even though I'm a civil litigation attorney. I've been a true crime advocate for years and years and years. I have a bookshelf full of Ann Rule's books, and I want to, before I pass, my goal is to have them all and read them all. I mean, she was my hero. What a great writer she was. So, that's what intrigues me the most is just getting into a wide variety of different cases. But right now, I don't think we're alone in that. A large part of our focus right now is on the Idaho 4 case.
Mm-hmm. And I don't want to take up too much time because obviously I want everybody to take the time that you would have to watch an hour-long podcast with this podcast and move that on over to Murder Metal Mayhem's channel. But I mean, overall, it was just fun. I know we've collaborated with, Everywhereville, Evil, CJ, and now Murder Metal Mayhem. So we talked about on Pete's channel, what kind of cases you want to do coming up. Is there any for 2024? Give me your dream collab list. If you could think of any YouTuber that you'd love to have a collab, or I'll start with that question and then I'll go to another question.
Well, there's so many different people on YouTubes and there's so many different personalities that it's almost like starting school in the beginning of the semester because there's just so many people. As you know, one of my absolute favorites is Annie Elise, 10 to Life. She just incredible. She's a non-attorney, but she knows how to tell a story and she knows how to hammer the points home. She's a mother, and so she has a personal view. Then there's CJ, and he just has a way to really dig into the facts. He went out to Moscow and Pullman, and he, drove around and he showed us. And he has his own personality, and he's an interesting person. You can watch him for a long time. And then Pete, the Murder Metal Mayhem guy, he's an interesting character. I mean, he and I have some things in common. He was a bass player. I was a bass player. He was a building inspector. I'm on the planning board. I mean, we just have a lot of stuff in common, but he just has this kind of personality where he's just one of, us and them kind of a guys, but he delves way into the details. So, I think I answered your question by saying Annie Elise, but there's just so many, and there's so many people and so little time.
Now, for our last question, and I won't bother you anymore.
Oh, bother me.
It's the question that I've seen people ask about in our comments, and maybe our conversation about posting schedules has left some people confused about this. But do you want to go live in 2024?
I do. I definitely want to go live in 2024. But there's a lot of consternation. You really have to have your ducks in a row. You really have to be ready. You really have to know what you're going to talk about. And what if my big fear is, what if you get somebody on there that just starts swearing at you?
I'll put them in line. I keep you in check. I'll keep them in check. I'll keep chat in check.
Okay.
I'm watching you chat. No, it's funny. I mean, I think with the going live thing, I'm really excited to go live, and we do plan on going live maybe in February. Hopefully, we'll, fingers crossed. Maybe March. We'll do it as like our 1-year channel anniversary. Maybe in April. We'll see what life comes of it. But it was funny because in Pete's podcast right before we started, it was like so tragic because we were even having like technical issues then. So it's like, oh my God, we're gonna have a podcast and then we're gonna have one of our million tech issues. But we want to give members more content. We see you, we hear you. 2024 will hopefully be a massive year for your enjoyment. If you're watching this, I hope you enjoy our content. I hope you look forward to the stuff that we have coming up. And I just want to say, if you liked this video and if you're looking forward to hearing more from us, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below. And
wait a minute. Is it my turn to ask a question?
You can ask a question.
What was your favorite part about our interview with Pete on Murder, Mayhem, Metal?
Ooh, see, I liked a lot of it, but I thought it was interesting because I felt like a lot of the focus was put on me. And usually when we do one of these podcasts, especially if we have a guest on, I'm generally like someone the comments got me stressed because a lot of the time I just like listening. But it was weird to kind of be like on the spot and kind of given like the open mic. And I did talk a little bit about myself there. So similar to you, where it was just like interesting to dive into like information on you. It was interesting to kind of, I don't know, be the spotlight for once because I like to kind of get people's opinions. So that was nice.
I have one more question. Now, so you enjoyed being on with Pete, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've been doing this podcast now for almost a year, not quite a year. You were never really into the true crime thing. You just came into it all as the tech person, which I sorely need. What do you really think about this law stuff and true crime? What do you really, 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 be honest? What do you really think about it?
So it's interesting because I'm always so flattered. Even like when our comments are, these attorneys, plural, don't know anything. And I'm like, oh, you think I'm an attorney? Like, that's so sweet.
But you still don't know anything.
Exactly. And a lot of the times I feel like I'm coming from a place of, I'm not the legal professional here. And, you have a lot of valuable insight that I would have never considered. And that's part of why I enjoy this so much. But I mean, I'm a learner. I think that because before this podcast and when we first started our channel, we were going into civil law. It was never like the intent originally was not go into true crime. And I'm kind of like the person where this is a whole new universe to me. I'm Lainey Law, learning about the law. So everything that I find out is kind of opening my mind. And I'm flattered that people think that I sound more educated in the subject matter than I am. A lot of the times I feel like during our podcast episodes, I'm asking you questions like, can they really do this? But I don't know. I think it's an interesting topic and it's really fascinating too for me to see our comment section. Our comment section, like the cases themselves, I do like, but even just reading the comments and like you said, no tunnels. We don't have tunnels.
No
it's
tunnels.
Just like
there are tunnels. Yes, there are tunnels.
I love the tunnels comments. I love everything. I like the beautifully phrased comments that are really eloquent. I like the comments that I'm like, oh my God, like what is this person? the conspiracy thing. I think just the whole social aspect of YouTube has been really fun. So that's one of the things I'm looking forward to in 2024 as well.
Okay.
So, any final thoughts?
Well, I just hope that people enjoyed us collaborating with Pete on the Murder Metal Mayhem. I hope that people will like and subscribe and have a great day.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Stay tuned to see a couple of highlights from our episode, and then be sure to check out Pete's channel. We'll see you the next one.
Hi, I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
And I'm Lainey Law, and you're watching Murder Metal Mayhem.
So speaking of law, Andrew, when did you start practicing law? And you talked about what made you want to do the channel, but what about law? When did you start getting into that?
Oh, good grief. I've been practicing law for 30 years. Before that, I was a TV reporter, and I reported on politics, and I reported on crime, and I reported on just general assignment reporting. But I'd always wanted to go to law school. I go to law school in Boston, and I get out of law school, and so I've been practicing for 30 years.
What is it about that case that you think has just captivated the true crime community, and what do you think makes it so intriguing to people?
I think if I had to guess, one of the biggest reasons that it spread so quickly because it happened on this college campus. And we talk about how before the cops even arrived, that students at this school, like there was hum and news that like things had been going on. And I think being on a near college campus and involving college students and involving, what seems like a very social group of college students, you would think that things would be more transparent and it would be easy to get down to what happened, because we're in a point right now where we have Ring doorbells, we have our cell phones, everybody's got like Life 360 on their phone to see where their friends are. You go on Snapchat, you can see where people's locations are. And I think it kind of baffles a lot of people that we have all of this technology available, and there's still a lot of people feel like there's holes, and then you have the gag order, so then it's just like people are trying to piece together things themselves.
I don't think I've ever seen a case with so many shady characters.
I think what really caught America's attention was, yes, it's for young people. Yes, they were at a university, and a lot of parents have kids at a university. When you send kids off to college, you just want to assume that they're okay. But what I was going to say is that, these crimes happened just before the holidays on November 13th of 2022. And for 6 weeks, the media just every night, there's been no solution to the Idaho 4, Maddie, and, they would name them, they would throw their pictures up on the screen. And, every single night for 6 weeks until they caught him the very end of 2022. The networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, all the three-letter, Fox, CNN, every night. So America is, what is going on? What is happening? Then they finally nabbed the guy, and within days, they clamped down this gag order, this non-dissemination order. We're not going to tell you anything. If the authorities don't want to tell you anything, we will take on the job of telling you everything we possibly can after we research the facts, the circumstances, and the law, and we embrace that job cheerfully, and we hope that you will stay with us as we do that in this podcast about the law. Now, there's an update about one of the cases that we talked about in this episode, and that is the very sad death of young 5-year-old Harmony Montgomery. The update is that her father, Adam Montgomery, has now been convicted of all 4 counts that he was charged with in Superior Court in relation to his death. Now, before we close out this introductory episode, I've got to talk to you about someone who has helped me with this podcast and an old friend. This is Doug Cope. Before I ever did one podcast, I tried it on my own and I failed miserably. It was awful. So don't even ask to look at it. We got rid of it. So I called Doug Cope. He was my college roommate many years ago at Emerson College, and he gave me some great advice before I even did episode 1 as it goes today. And then once we started doing the podcast, Doug frequently came on and commented on cases only after he'd done a lot of research. Doug spent many, many, many years in the broadcast industry. He was at one of the big Boston radio stations, WBZ in Boston, and he also taught broadcast journalism. Sadly, Doug passed away right after the new year in 2024. I miss him. His contributions to this podcast were fantastic, and I know, having met them, his family and his friends miss him incredibly. We can only hope to live up to all of the great advice that Doug gave us as we started this podcast. We hope that you will stay with us on all of our episodes as we dig into various issues, and we really like to read our comments. Remember, please, to be polite, be respectful. Remember that hopefully we're all professionals. If you don't have anything nice to say, maybe this isn't the time to say it. We just like to read our comments. We get a lot of ideas from people, and again, we hope that you'll be polite, be respectful, no matter where you are in the grocery store or at the gas station or here on our podcast. Remember, just because you don't agree with somebody doesn't mean that they're a... We can all learn from each other, even if we don't agree with each other. We can all open our eyes, our ears, and our minds and learn something. So as always, thank you for joining us. Have a great day. You have been watching About the Law, a production of the law offices of Andrew D. Myers in Methuen in the Merrimack Valley of Massachusetts and in Derry, just outside of Manchester, New Hampshire. Remember to click the like and subscribe buttons down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to share it with your friends and others. If you'd like to talk to me about an injury case, a car accident, a slip and fall, a serious bodily injury case, or some other case, please feel free to contact me. I'd love to talk to you. You can contact us through my website at attorney-myers.com. We have a contact us block, or you can call on one of the telephone numbers we've given there, or you can email me at andrew@attorney-myers.com. The foregoing is offered for informational purposes only. It is not intended as and does not constitute legal advice. Laws vary widely from state to state. You should rely only on the advice given to you during a personal consultation by a local attorney thoroughly familiar with state laws and the area of practice in which your concern lies. This podcast must be and hereby is labeled advertisement in some jurisdictions.
And that's that.
And that's that. No tunnels.
No tunnels. Yes, tunnels. Even just reading the comments, and like you said, no tunnels. We don't have tunnels.
No
it's
tunnels.
just like
There are tunnels. Yes, there are tunnels.
I love the tunnels comments. I love everything.